Welcome back to Take Action News, everybody. That music means it is time for Daniel Marin's How It Should Be. Daniel, take it away. What do you got today?
Well, David, today my segment on How It Should Be is about the word should, and specifically how the elites in our country, the folks in the politicians and the media, who inform viewers about how things should be or tell them what the political choices that they face are. And they say things like, we must do this or else. We should do this or else. And one of the most common ones that we hear today from many figures in Washington, D.C. is we must cut back on our obligations to our retired workers or our current workers or young workers, or else we will go bankrupt, or else we'll have a sovereign debt crisis like Greece. We'll become Greece. Or some third way Democrats, their version of that is, or we won't have enough money to spend on food stamps and Head Start and all those other programs for kids that Democrats hold dear. Well, here's what I want to say. The word must, if you hear the word must, know that ideology lurks behind it. When someone creates a choice and says, either this or that will happen, unless you do this. If you don't do this, then that will happen. Then don't believe them. Take it with a grain of salt. I heard it from my professor. I first learned that from my professor of business history and a major authority on the evolution of the American corporation, Lou Galambos. He's a professor at Johns Hopkins University. He's a conservative, very conservative politically, but he always started us off by saying, be suspicious when you hear the word must. There needed to be this condition in order for this condition to occur. Because people like to create the illusion that their preferred ideological solution is a necessity in order to advance it, particularly if their preferred ideological conclusion is unpopular. And that's exactly the case that we're facing today on the issue of austerity in the United States. Folks like the Fix the Debt Coalition, which is a group that's funded by billionaire Pete Peterson and supported by a council of CEOs that is headed by Jamie Dimon and a number of other Wall Street bankers, essentially have gotten together and said, if American government doesn't cut back on our social insurance obligations, the amount that we cover through Medicare, or the cash payments we are promising people through Social Security, America, the economy will get worse and worse. And even though right now, American workers have seen their median income decline by 4% in the past 4 years, the ability to get a decent job that pays well is harder than ever, and the ability to retire securely and with dignity is nearly impossible. Them's the breaks. You're competing with workers from China, and so deal with it. Well, it's a little bit like the person robbing your house telling you that you don't really need that TV, and if you keep that TV, then you're not going to be able to afford your medicine, and so it's really better if you give me your TV. The American economy has been growing. It's that all the gains have been going to the guys that fix the debt and the people that fund that campaign. Which brings me to something that I wrote about on Friday based on an experience that I had. I rushed over to Farragut Square downtown in Washington, D.C. because I heard that there was going to be a Fix the Debt flash mob there, which meant that Fix the Debt, this organization that is a billionaire-financed AstroTurf group that is interested sort of supposedly in the idea of a bipartisan solution, but really it's a solution that would have some negligible revenue increases, many of them regressive by raising taxes on middle-class people, and mostly wants a solution through driving through a quote-unquote long-term deficit reduction plan that would cut Social Security and Medicare. And they do it by telling people that there's no choice. They do it by using that must word. We must do this or else. We must cut Social Security and Medicare, or we won't be a great nation anymore, or economic stagnation will be even worse. And here's the thing, here's the tragic thing, is that there are a lot of genuine working Americans that are struggling in today's economy that are buying this argument. They're buying the argument. They look at Fix the Debt, they say, both sides coming together, compromise, that's appealing. And a lot of Americans are ideologically confused. They're not sure what causes things economically. A lot of people think that it's the fault of immigrants, that they're competing, that the reason that they are economically unfortunate is because they're competing with immigrants, or that the state is giving too much to poor people, even though it's a fraction of the budget, and it's been shown to have great dividends in terms of economic consumption, or that the state is providing too much in foreign aid. What very few of them say is that they're getting too much Social Security and Medicare. And yet, by being a little bit confused in their ideology sometimes, they end up throwing their support behind Fix the Debt. And the best example that I found was a case of a guy that really warmed my heart in his goodness and kindness, was someone who was working at this Fix the Debt flash mob because he had a good friend who works for Fix the Debt. His name is Al Archidiacono, age 52. And here's what he said about why he supports Fix the Debt. He said, if you think about it, people are living off of credit. You saw what happened back in 2008. I lost my position because of the credit bubble. I worked for a company for 25 years, and now we're kind of doing some freelance stuff, just trying to find all kinds of work, even though the economy is getting better. If we don't pay down our debt, it's going to get worse and worse. I asked him if he supported cutting Social Security and Medicare. After all, Fix the Debt is one of the leading political forces urging our lawmakers to take action that would cut Social Security and Medicare, even though Social Security doesn't contribute to the deficit. In the case of Medicare, it's healthcare costs that are causing our budget problems, and Medicare is better at controlling those costs than private healthcare. He said, no, flat no. I see what my mom and dad get. My mom worked hard for 40 years as a tailor at Saks Fifth Avenue. Thank God she was able to save her own money. But what she gets from Social Security is a pittance. It would barely be enough for her and my dad to survive on where they live and the lifestyle they've become accustomed to. And they're already cutting back a little. So in essence, Al is a perfect picture of the casualties of the Great Recession and the casualties of our unequal economy, of our unwillingness to take action to help the unemployed more. He's someone in middle age who is now underemployed, struggling from part-time job to part-time job, who lost his job with the company he'd been working with at for years due to the recession. And yet he's a little bit confused. He's conflating sort of the issue of private debt buildup in the economy that led to the housing bubble and the crash with the government debt that could be used, in fact, to provide him relief. But that is the fault of the elites. That is the fault of the politicians and the figures in the media and the folks that Fix the Debt that are basically feeding him this narrative, that are telling him, you delegate your trust to us. You rely on us to translate policy for you, and we're telling you that you have no choice, that you have been discarded by this economy, need to cut back further because government's like a household. I mean, that's where his understanding of the economy seemed to come from, and that comes from the top, even from Barack Obama. And it just breaks my heart that educated upper middle class people who know better and who understand the way the economy works, who are being trusted by average Americans to tell them how these things work, are selling them a false bill of goods for their own good, for their own profit. It's disingenuous, it's despicable, it's a false choice. And that's not how it should be. How it should be is telling the truth.